Russia is one of the two countries with the largest nuclear arsenals in the world, with around 5,500 nuclear warheads. The United States and Russia have dominated the nuclear balance for decades. Even in the 21st century, millions of Russians still do not have a toilet inside their homes. This problem mainly affects rural areas and small towns. One of the most radioactive places in the world is located in Russia. At the Mayak Production Association complex, the Kyshtym disaster occurred in 1957. An explosion of a nuclear waste storage tank exposed tens of thousands of people to radiation. The number of victims was never officially disclosed and may range from several hundred to several thousand deaths. In Russia, publicly criticizing those in power can lead to prison. Criticism of the government, the military, or the war is often treated as a criminal offense. In Russia, there are cities located hundreds of kilometers away with no year-round road access. For example, Norilsk and Yakutsk can only be reached by plane, by river, or via seasonal ice roads. The law prohibits public expression or so-called promotion of LGBT identities. The result is censorship, repression, and fear of consequences. In some regions of Russia, winters bring near total darkness. Temperatures can drop to -50 degrees Celsius, and months without sunlight can affect both physical health and mental well-being. In Russia, the internet is becoming increasingly controlled. Platforms like Instagram and Facebook have been blocked, and access to other American services is often restricted. Russia has been ruled by the same person for more than 2 decades. Vladimir Putin holds decisive influence over the executive branch, the media, and the security services. Some Russian cities officially do not exist. They are closed, heavily guarded, and cannot be entered without special permission from the state. Russia has long been among the countries with very high alcohol consumption rates. Alcoholism has been a serious social and public health problem there for decades. The state has repeatedly concealed major disasters, putting its own citizens at risk. Kyshtym, Kursk, and Norilsk show that the truth often emerged only when it could no longer be hidden. Natural gas is one of Russia's main sources of revenue. The country largely lives off what it extracts from the ground. The Tsar Bomba was the largest hydrogen bomb ever detonated by humans. The test was carried out on October 30th, 1961, over Novaya Zemlya, with an estimated yield of around 50 to 58 megatons, far greater than any other nuclear weapon. The shock wave and the massive mushroom cloud were visible hundreds of kilometers away, making it the largest explosion in recorded history. About 75% of Russia's population lives on just 1/4 of the country's western territory. Russia is considered one of the most corrupt large countries in the world. Bribes and personal connections are a normal part of everyday life for many people. Russia's key allies today are China and Belarus. Their cooperation spans politics, the military, and the economy. The Russian military is one of the largest fighting forces in the world. However, the reality for many soldiers involves harsh conditions and a demanding, unforgiving service. Russia has repeatedly used force beyond its own borders. Territorial expansion and armed conflicts have been a constant part of its history since the imperial era. Until 2011, beer in Russia was not officially classified as alcohol. Beverages containing less than 10% alcohol were treated as ordinary food products. Only in 2013 did beer begin to face the same restrictions as other alcoholic drinks. Nuclear weapons remain a key element of deterrence strategy. They are one of the pillars of this country's position on the international stage. Russia possesses some of the largest natural resource reserves on Earth. Gas, oil, nickel, and rare metals drive its economy more than innovation does. In Russia, smiling at strangers is often seen as a sign of weakness or insincerity. This cultural contrast shocks much of the Western world. Fear is often an important tool of social control. Many people choose to remain silent, even when they disagree. The mafia there emerged during the chaos that followed the collapse of the Soviet Union. It became known for its brutal methods and its connections to politics, security services, and big business. This country has its own distinct interpretation of history and facts. In school textbooks, international events are often presented very differently than in the West. The current president of Russia comes directly from the security services. Vladimir Putin was an officer in the KGB and later the head of the FSB. He then served as president from 2000 to 2008, as prime minister for 4 years, and has been president again since 2012, remaining in power to this day. Prisons there are considered among the worst in the developed world. Cold conditions, violence, isolation, and corrupt guards are commonly described by former inmates. In some parts of Russia, there are significantly more women than men. Local communities and authorities encourage newcomers to settle and start families in an effort to stabilize the region's demographics. This country exports not only raw materials but also industrial products with global reach. Fertilizers from Uralkali, metals from Norilsk, and military equipment are supplied to markets around the world. Relations with the West are among the worst since the Cold War, especially after the full-scale war in Ukraine in 2022. The gap between the rich and the poor is enormous. Luxury neighborhoods exist alongside regions living in poverty. Ukraine once had the third largest nuclear arsenal in the world, but in 1994 it agreed to give up its weapons in exchange for security guarantees from the United States, Russia, and the United Kingdom. One of the key conditions was respect for Ukraine's borders. Russia violated these commitments twice, in 2014 and 2022. In Russia, one poorly covered part of the body can make the difference between life and death. At minus 50 degrees Celsius, exposed skin can harden and suffer frostbite within minutes. Some political scandals have never been fully explained. Examples include the poisoning of Alexander Litvinenko, the revelations of the Panama Papers, or the circumstances surrounding the death of Alexei Navalny. Many cases quickly disappear from public debate. At their closest point, Russia and the United States are separated by only about 4 kilometers. In the Bering Strait lie the Diomede Islands, one American and one Russian, divided by an international border and the International Date Line. This country has one of the largest reserve armies in the world. In the event of mobilization, the number of soldiers can increase rapidly. This country is so large that it spans 11 time zones. That is more than any other country in the world. The military budget consumes a massive share of the state's finances. In recent years, military spending has reached around 7% of gross domestic product, which is among the highest levels in the world. This country was the first to send a human into space. In 1961, the Soviet Union sent Yuri Gagarin, who returned safely to Earth. A few years earlier, in 1957, the dog Laika was also sent into orbit, and unfortunately did not survive the mission. Russia is one of the most misunderstood countries in the world. At the same time powerful and poor, modern and backward, all at once. It is the largest country in the world. It consists of dozens of regions and is home to around 146 million people. State propaganda is an important tool for influencing society. Television remains the primary source of information for millions of people. According to numerous reports, a secret tunnel network beneath Moscow is believed to exist, unofficially known as Metro 2. It is reportedly designed to connect underground bunkers and facilities intended for the highest levels of the state elite. Russian authorities have never officially confirmed its existence. In Russia, for many people it is more important that things do not get worse than that they get better. This mindset has been shaped by decades of crises, repression, and uncertainty. Stability is valued more than change. For years, the West was heavily dependent on Russian products. Energy, fertilizers, and raw materials flowed to Europe and the rest of the world until sanctions disrupted this arrangement. The strongest impact was felt in Germany after restrictions on Russian gas imports. High energy prices hit industry so hard that some factories were forced to temporarily halt production or shut down entirely, including in the automotive sector at brands such as Mercedes, Audi, and Volkswagen. The longest river in Russia is the Lena River. It measures about 4,294 kilometers, making it one of the longest rivers in the world and the longest river that flows entirely within Russia. In Russia, the media is largely controlled by the state. Independent journalism operates under very limited conditions. Near the end of the Cold War, Pepsi accepted an unusual form of payment from the Soviet Union. Instead of cash, it received warships, including submarines. For a brief time, Pepsi became the owner of one of the largest fleets in the world, although all of the vessels were later sold or scrapped. Leave a like and subscribe if you want more shocking facts from around the world.